Order. There's still some people not getting in the waiting room. I don't know if it's on their end or our end, but my assumption is it's on their end. But I'll keep pressing admit. So I have a change to the agenda. We do have a quorum, right? I know Jeremy's here.
Yeah, we have.
Dan, I see you. Is Selena around?
She's not in the list. No, not yet.
Okay. Jude had an emergency, so she's not going to be here tonight, unfortunately. She texted me. We've been texting all day. So I want to change the agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to pull up the COVID updates that are under the principal's report. And I guess we're going to cancel the principal's report unless Wayne gave you something to share.
Yes, I would like to make a motion relative to that portion of the principal's report. I'd like to make a motion that the school board will be calling school off for tomorrow, Friday. It'll be a snow day with nobody in the school and no responsibilities for either students or staff, just for the one day to assess the situation and to make sure we're coming out of it safe and sound.
Do I hear a second? Second from Jeremy. Okay, so this is just for discussion now. There's a lot of people on the call. We're going to let people have their, minute to talk. And if you could help me, Jeremy, looking for raised hands, that would be helpful.
Doug,
essentially, I just want to start with some numbers, I think, Dan. Is it okay to do that just to give people the lay of the land?
I just want to let you know that Selena is now on the call. So
oh, good. Selena, did you hear the motion?
I just heard the tail end of it. Sorry for coming.
That's okay. So essentially,
a couple minutes late.
It's a motion on the table to close school for one day tomorrow to assess, COVID cases, and then basically restart in person on Monday. That's the motion, and now we'll have discussion on it. But before we discuss, I just wanted to share some numbers because I know that there's a lot of talk in the community about what's going on, who has it, who doesn't. All that stuff happens as soon as a case is shared. But there was 2 classes that were impacted, and by 2 classes I mean 5, 6, 3, 4 this week, and that sparked not only I think. It was 3 COVID cases. 2 of them were staff and faculty, and 1 of them was a student. They basically, I think they were in contact since last Friday, but from that point they weren't, I believe. And Gail Chain is on the call and she could verify if I've screwed any of this up. But since that time, a lot of people have not been in school. So, our total population is 101. I think on Monday, there were 44 students out. Again, not all related to illnesses or the fact that they were in close contact. Some of them have doctor appointments and other things that they needed to go to. But essentially, just today, there were 36 absent. And that breakdown was 18 healthy students simply just stayed away for fear of COVID, so close to the holiday. So that's 1/5 of the school. 3 students are actually ill. We don't know their test results. 9 students are not ill, but have to quarantine because of the close contact from the prior experiences. And 6 were for other reasons unrelated to COVID. But there's been no new cases since the test to stay has started. So kids have been going to the school, being dropped off. Parents are waiting for 30 minutes or so and making sure that they are good to go into the classroom. And since we've started that, there haven't been any new cases. But with that, those numbers are important because if we reach 51%, it doesn't count as a school day. And we were very close on Monday. We had 44 students. So that day wouldn't have counted. And we would have basically been in school for no reason and had to tack on a day in June. So this prompted the conversation, I think, with Wayne, who could not be here tonight. And we all wish him well. But we considered closing the school until the end of the year for the holidays to make sure that everybody was safe for the holiday break. And we've considered many things to even remote work, which in the end, I don't think was fair to have the faculty prep for 4 days of remote work the week before the holiday break. And that's just my opinion, but I'm going to let the rest of the board speak now. So go right ahead. You guys got the numbers.
I have a question for Bill. So Bill, at the beginning of the school year, we had voted to allow you to make calls at your discretion based upon COVID. Would Dan's motion be necessary, or would you be able to make such a call to have a quote unquote snow day for tomorrow, and then reassess for Monday?
So what the board did at the beginning of the year is mandated the following of the COVID-19 memorandums that came from the Vermont Department of Health and from the Agency of Education. So there is nothing in those that direct closure or remote or learning from home. So those are all calls that could be made by the superintendent or could be made by the board. Those would be the two entities that could make those decisions. So neither one has to make the decision, either are authorized to make those decisions.
And can I follow up on that, Bill? How do you feel about our proposal for tomorrow?
Understanding the full context of the situation, having conversed with Wayne, having good conversations with your nurse, Sarah Sherritt, I think that not deciding today for a full week makes a lot of sense. It leaves you some flexibility. I think tomorrow, allowing basically a snow day to give more time to see what happens in the results of some tests and to allow people to catch their breath. And then to reassess on Monday seems to be a reasonable response, knowing that a different response might be necessary on Sunday or Monday.
So basically, I think if this vote passes, everybody plans to come to school Monday unless otherwise notified, but will not be in school tomorrow. However, I don't think Sarah's on the call because she's taking a sick day today.
She
Non-COVID.
is.
Sarah is
Non-COVID
here.
sick day.
Sarah is here, Doug.
Oh, Sarah's here. So Sarah, I think I'd like you to just mention, if you can, the fact that there are PCR tests that need to happen tomorrow and how you could see that going with people not in school.
Yeah, so everyone who's participating in the Test to Stay program would have their last test tomorrow, and that would be the test that ends their quarantine. We also have a handful of people who've chosen to keep their kids home, who all are expected to get PCR tests tomorrow or later to end their quarantine. So if we don't have school tomorrow, we now find ourselves with at least 32 students who now need to find getting a test done elsewhere. So I've already talked to Gail about it, and we would like to be able to offer to have people come to the school to get a PCR test tomorrow, sometime between probably 10 and noon, and just kind of staggered out. And we can just come right out to meet you outside and do the test, and you'll be right on your way. And the results should come back in about 24 hours based on how they've been going this week. We just started using them.
Thanks, Sarah. Do you have anything else to share besides that? Anything on the numbers that I shared that you want to correct?
No, I mean, I haven't spent that much time looking at the attendance numbers and the breakdown myself. But so far, we've not, like you said, none of our Test to Stay people have tested positive, and all of the staff that were exposed did get PCR tests just to make sure, and they all have come back negative as well. So it feels like it's fairly well contained at this point, but I also think it makes sense to just call it for tomorrow, have everyone finish up with a PCR test, and start fresh on Monday.
Thanks for that. And I probably should have started by thanking everybody who scrambled with lack of resources. You lost an administrator and a faculty member this week, and you guys still pulled it off, and I really appreciate it.
No,
On behalf of the board and myself as a parent, very, very, very thankful for all of your. I don't know who Hannah's iPhone is, but if you could mute yourself, that would be really kind. Thank you.
I just muted her. She's
Thank
good.
you. Sarah, I just wanted to give you a big shout out. Like, thank you so, so, so much for all of your hours outside of school hours, weekend time, just all the time you have put into keeping us all informed and healthy and safe. So, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't do it alone. So there's lots of appreciation to go around. Gail Chain for definitely is on the list, and many other people. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Gail, as well. Yes.
I guess okay, Jeremy's got something. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if before our discussion ends, if we could hear from faculty, from teachers about both this specific proposal as well as next week, the potential of next week being off or on.
Yes, we're going there. We're trying to handle the board first, but if you guys are done, we can go to the public and the faculty.
Oh, so it's just board comment at this point?
Yeah, we're kicking it off with us and then we'll extend it out.
My mistake. So I'm just going to offer one other idea, which is a perspective that, so I think that there's two different ways to analyze data, and that I think that it's important to hold them both together as we think about choices that we make for our school. Much of the data that the government bases its recommendations on, the state bases its decisions on, are about us beating this pandemic as a state, as a nation, or as a planet. And that is how you beat infectious disease. It's a very utilitarian, which I like, usually, approach to data and response. There is sometimes, I think, a misconception about whether or not that is as useful when we're talking about responsibilities for individual transmission. So it's not to say that the data we're using is not great. I just want to point out that there is a difference between the idea of how do we slow this thing down as a larger body of humanity versus what do we need to do to care for the health of individual people in our community. There are practices that we do that minimize transition in the school. There may be more that we can do. And so the decision we're making also, it needs to also take into account, an influx in both variants in our region over the last couple of weeks. And so that's it.
Thanks, Jeremy. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. And again, this was supposed to be a budget meeting. So I'm going to call it and kind of give everybody time, but
I see Gail Chain has a hand up, Doug.
Yep.
Gail Chain.
Okay, Gail, go ahead, Gail.
I'd just like to say that you're calling it a snow day, but I believe that all of the staff will be there. I feel that they can speak for themselves, but I feel that most of them want to work tomorrow. I think that the numbers have probably stabilized unless we have another outbreak. Those 18 children that stayed home, I think that'll come down as long as there aren't more outbreaks personally, because this is the way it often goes. You have people that they hear about it, they freak out, their rumors fly around, and then the facts come out and everybody settles down and the kids say, Mom, I really want to go to school. So that's what happens. So I would just like to put in a word for keeping school open tomorrow. I think it's really brutal to call people at 9 o'clock at night and say, hey, we're closed tomorrow. I don't think the numbers warrant it personally. That's all.
Thanks, Gail. Anybody else have their hand raised? Sarah. Sarah and then Nellie.
Hi. So yeah, I guess I just thought I'd add my experience. My school in Whitingham has had, a bunch of cases over the year. And, I don't know, it hasn't, the data seems to show, like at most schools, that it's not spreading in schools. And I think the schools handled it really well so far, with the Test to Stay program. So I mean, depending on how the staff feels and their readiness to like deal with school, I just really feel like the school doesn't necessarily need to close, is my like personal feeling. I mean, I don't know if all the information, but I think, I guess as long as the test to stay program is showing negative results, I think we're doing pretty good. That's just my 2 cents.
Nellie, go ahead. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, mine kind of echoes Gail and Sarah's points, but sharing my junior high students' perspective that they asked us, to say on behalf of them, that again, if the numbers are low and tests keep coming back negative, they would also, it would be really beneficial for them if the school stayed open.
Thanks, Nellie. I don't see any other hands.
Michelle has a physical hand raised, Doug.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
good.
please.
Yeah, I don't see everybody. So please, Michelle, go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, Doug, I appreciate that. I very much respect what has been said thus far. I have to tell you, from my perspective today, I tried to do 3 different jobs covering for 2 different people, and then thrown into a position to be asked to be a medical professional at the last minute. And I'm a paraeducator who has 3 students right now on my caseload who need a ton of support. I was not able to do that because I am spread so thin. I am one of probably 10 other staff members right now at this school who are covering and filling in and band-aiding this problem. It's not about the numbers. It's about how many staff members can show up to the school and keep it afloat right now. I am very, I have to just tell you, it was a very difficult day for many of us. And we're all working very hard. We care very much about keeping the school open and keeping our kids safe. But I'm telling you what, please listen to us as well. You have to take care of your staff. We're hanging on by a thread. So I just want to say that, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that comment because it is true. Like I said at the beginning, we are operating, but we're operating now with lack of resources. We've lost a teacher who is out in quarantine, and we've lost a principal. So it's very important to be mindful of that fact. Pam Mayo, then Caleb.
Hi, this is actually Sarah Powers. I'm with Pam Mail and Patty Donnelly. We are Zooming together. I wanted to echo a little bit of what Michelle had to say. I think that as a staff, there's been a lot of stress. We are encouraged to take care of ourselves and our mental health and our physical health. And I think that listening to a medical professional like Sarah Sherritt and taking the day off tomorrow, although it may inconvenience some families, and getting a phone call at 9 o'clock is not anyone's ideal time to cancel school or take a snow day. It does happen. And I think that it would be necessary. So that's
and also, even though we have one teacher who's out with COVID, this is Pam, if we have a sore throat, we're supposed to stay home. So staffing changes at a moment's notice. We're out like 5 people that we need, and we never know when that's going to happen. So to be able to everyone have their tests, get their results, start with a clean slate on Monday just feels like a relief almost.
Yeah. So this is Patty. As someone who works with the youngest of children who, they don't have the mask over their nose. I had a child throw up yesterday. I have 3 that are sick. I have a little scratchy throat. Will I call out tomorrow? I should, but I've been trying to hang on because we're so short-staffed. And I definitely like Sarah Sherritt's point of view of sort of everyone coming in tomorrow, taking a test, see the numbers go down, and then start fresh on Monday, feeling healthy and safe instead of, really cautious and we're in a sick building and we're all sort of afraid. That's my point of view.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Kayla and then Dan.
Yeah, I just want to echo the last few comments and just say that I, not to be like, toxically positive, but like I really applaud everyone's efforts. Everybody is really stepping up and going above and beyond, and they shouldn't have to. There's, the capacity is just not there. I have two students at this school who love school and don't want to see school closed. I have one student that would prefer to stay home. And it would be in their best interest to be staying home. So as a parent, I'm split. But as also a staff member, I just see the burnout, and I see that we're walking into, year 3. We're going to be walking into year 3 of this pandemic, and people are just fried, and showing up with a smile every day anyway. And we all know, anybody that knows Michelle knows that she comes with that can-do attitude. And so to hear Michelle speak up the way she did tonight, I think is just like really indicative of where we are right now. So I would just like to also say that I believe that we should have, a fresh start whenever that is, to give everyone some breathing room. Thanks.
Thank you, Kayla. Dan?
I just wanted to clarify, Elizabeth had written in the chat, confused, are we talking about one day or all week? The motion on the table is just one day tomorrow. And I think that's become clear from the conversation, but I just wanted to clarify that.
I did respond directly to Elizabeth, and per the rules, it was my mistake. I shouldn't have had chat on, Dan, you know that.
Okay.
But people can write directly to me. They just can't write to the group anymore. I changed that. I think, I don't see any hands up, but I do want to echo. I had a great day-to-day meeting with all the teachers individually and getting their feelings on things. I really, kind of filled in emissary for Wayne a little bit, and I got to see, their responses, and I really appreciated hearing from them, because I know that remote work is hard and we could have done that. But I understand that we're at a point where our resources are really burnt out, and, our people are hurting, and I don't want to hurt them further before the holiday. And was my feeling when I left. I'm not speaking for the board now. But I also want to talk to the community too. And I know that childcare is difficult. I know that it's hard, but these people have been there every day since September for your kids. I think that we need to consider them, at least at this time of year. Angela, and then Nellie again.
Hey, actually, this is Ben. So I just wanted to say that I think you guys are all doing a great job, and that I really respect the board's decision and how hard everybody's been working lately. It's been crazy out there, as we all know. And this might be a little bit off topic, but I have a question about what preparedness are you guys having for if this happens again in January and February? So are you prepared for a COVID outbreak in any way? And have you been preparing? I guess that's my question. So if that's not the right time, I can ask it later.
That's a good question, Ben. I had actually talked to Pam Mail about that. I think it was Pam when we were having our conversation today. And, we both sort of said that we can't really close school because we don't want kids going to school till July. So I think that, when Wayne is back, there's some break time to talk and maybe hopefully build in some time for, remote packets to be ready and a little readiness there. Should we in January and February, when we're in deep winter, have to deal with this again. But, I think that instructional disposition ultimately still lies with Bill if things go further south. But I'll leave it there and let Bill or other board members respond.
Okay, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
So it sounds like there hasn't been anything prepared like for remote learning yet, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I can't answer that directly. I don't know the readiness there, but I know that it was, their lessons change. But again, I think I would defer to the staff. I'm not going to be the one to answer that. I'm not in the day-to-day operations. But If Bill can, or anybody else on this call, faculty can answer Ben's question. Sorry that we don't have Wayne tonight to answer that question. Apologies.
I cannot answer it in specificity for Marlboro. I think in general, the education professionals are prepared to deal with whatever the environment brings, but you have to look at that in the context of the reality of what the moment looks like. So I can't give you the specificity of our packets ready to go home for 3 or 4 days, but I am very confident in the talent, skills, and preparation of the community of Marlboro to adapt as necessary. So if it was necessary, I have no doubt it could happen. But I really can't speak to the specificity without Wayne and talking with the staff.
Thanks, Bill. I'm going to go to Nellie now, and then Liz has her hand up.
Nellie, Liz, and then Sarah Sherritt had a physical hand raised.
Oh, Sarah, is your response into Ben's question or separate?
Liz might be able to respond to Ben's question better just as a faculty member.
Okay, Liz, is that why your hand's up? To respond to Ben? Okay, why don't you take before Nellie?
Yeah, I had something else to say too, but to answer the question, and I think I speak for more than just myself, but preparing for in-person is a full-time job that we are hanging on by a thread to do right now. And to then have to like be ready with like a packet of work to send home would be like adding on another job on top of our job that we're already trying to do. So like, I know I do not have a packet of work ready to just like send home with kids, and I would need a lot of time to prepare that. So to specifically answer the question of like, do we have stuff ready to go? No, because we don't have time to get that done. So no.
Then I'm going to go to Nellie first.
Got it.
Okay.
Mine is actually a question about, supporting teachers. Why is it that there isn't enough support so that, teachers don't feel stretched thin like this? So what needs to be done, and why hasn't it been done, taking care of our teachers?
That's a very good question, Nellie. I think it was probably in the start of the year when I sat down with Wayne 13 days in, and people were feeling pretty fried. I don't really have a solid answer to that. I think Wayne would have a better one, but I do know that we sat and said, I think I said to him, Wayne, what can I do? What can the board do? How can we support everybody more? And he said, we need people. And I said, okay, well, let's go find them. And he says, we can't. So we can't add people to the school because they're not out there. They don't exist. And we would have given them any amount of money to make that happen and make more supports happen, but it's difficult. And, just for an example, it took us 6 months to find a phys ed teacher. People are fleeing education pretty quickly during COVID. And I don't think they're excited to take jobs in the school system currently. But again, that's my answer. Bill could have a better one. Wayne could too. Bill, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I would say it's not a Marlboro challenge. It's an education challenge. I can only speak for our SU, but we have 11 positions that are open. We have permanent subs. We have subs every day that we cannot fulfill. We have principals teaching classes. We have principals serving food. We have teachers, as Michelle said, doing 2 or 3 different things. It is not unique to Marlboro. This is the stretched thin reality of a COVID environment where you have fewer employees than are necessary. You have employees that are encouraged to take care of themselves. If they are sick, they need to stay home. You have people that have to quarantine. I don't think it's a lack of preparation, planning, or challenge to face that challenge that either the board or the administration or the teachers are facing. I think it is just the current reality that is a constant battle, and this is where we find ourselves. And I would just emphasize, this is not unique to Marlboro. This is happening in all 8 schools that I work with, and it happens with all of my colleagues all over the entire state. I know it's not maybe the answer you want to hear, but it is the truth.
Thanks, Bill. We have to remember, we're not the only district impacted by this, and everybody's looking for the same resources we are. And the hardest part is, within those first 13 days, Wayne was teaching a class because we lost a faculty member to testing and quarantining. So it was difficult. And people aren't growing on trees to come into the school. Ben, go ahead. Is this a follow-up question?
Yeah, just last thing, and then I'll stop talking. So I just think that if the teachers are so burned out that they can't even put together a packet to go home for like with a 1 day notice, like maybe you have like a packet ready to go and you just send it out for a day off, then how are they supposed to function every day? They need a break. And so how can we get them a break? And that's my big question. Liz answered it perfectly, and I appreciate everything that they're doing because it is crazy, and they're burning out, and everybody's already saying that. So,
okay, this is Angela. Hey, everybody. I think what Ben and I are hoping is that we can learn from this experience that we're in right now, that it would be good to give the teachers maybe one of those Mondays or couple Mondays or something, and we just focus on having nothing profound and amazingly educational, but just review packets, something that would count, to just have a day or more that we could just transition right into. And I think having a threshold established for the future that, if there's 3 cases or whatever we come up with, that we don't have to have a meeting each time. We just know that, we're going to move into this. Here's your packet. And it's not going to necessarily correlate to what's happening in the classroom. That would be ideal. And I know that you all are so passionate about your curriculum and your classroom learning environment is amazing. And I just know that can't be duplicated in packets. And so if we just say they're just something, and then we could transition into a remote situation and not have to tack on days to our summer. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Angela.
Can I ask Bill a question?
Absolutely.
About, so I'm just looking for some clarification. I know that at the beginning of the school year, Dan French said that there is no more remote learning options, which was like one of the options for four students last year to opt into rather than attending school. That was true at BOHS. Students could be fully remote versus a hybrid of in-person and remote learning. If we choose to do a remote option ever in the future, I'm not advocating for it at this moment in time. I'm just looking for answers. Just wondering, what is that? Are we allowed to do that? What does it entail? Is there just something that we need to do with AOE to satisfy a need to make it an official school day?
So if we do not have 51% of students physically in the building, it is default not a school day. However, if you provide, as I'll probably pronounce this incorrectly, the Mousseau family suggested, if you do provide at-home learning and you document that the amount of work reaches a minimum, and it's different for each grade level, but I mean, it's a very, very minimum, 2 to 4 hours of independent work, and you take attendance, then I am allowed as superintendent to package that information and to apply for a waiver. The secretary has received that empowerment because we're not under a state of emergency from the State Board of Education. And I am already preparing to provide a waiver for at least one school in my district already. And we'll be prepared to do that for what I believe will be happening in January, February, and March. Although the secretary cannot guarantee that he will say yes, he has given us the indication that if we do document in the appropriate manner of which I just explained, that he is inclined to understand the circumstances and approve those waivers and make those days count. but that cannot be done until after January 15th. So if we did do a learning from home day, we would take attendance and we would document the amount of work that we are providing for students. That could be in a packet, that could be on Seesaw, that could be in Google Classroom. It could be a combination of any of those things. So it is very possible. And that is how we are moving forward with all the other districts that I operate with.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing Jamie's hand raised. Go ahead, Jamie.
I am in full support of anything that the core teachers want to do. I'm calling the core teachers a sort of full-time classroom teachers. It's been an incredibly difficult week at school with so many absences, both staff and students. It just creates all kinds of logistical challenges, as Michelle laid out very clearly. I just want to bring up the point that Sarah voiced that she and Gail were willing to and prepared to work tomorrow to provide PCR tests for students that were expecting them and needing them. And while I would fully take advantage of that as a parent and completely appreciate it so much, I also hope that the board will take that into consideration, that 2 staff members are planning to work on what could potentially be a non-work day, and that there can be a solution for those staff members to be compensated. I don't know, compensated is the right word, but that's taken into consideration. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, I'm going to give room for 2 more, but then we're going to move on to our budget discussion after vote on this motion. I think some people are probably going to hang around for that. Jeremy?
Doug, there was a hand a couple of times from the Pam Mail, the 3 people under Pam Mail.
I was just saying that somebody else said it very well. I think actually, Bill, you had mentioned the fact that in education, we're lacking so many people right now. And so with people supposed to be out with just a scratchy throat because if possible of COVID and nobody to cover for you, even though we might have like 2 positive faculty members, there's more than that who have been out. Patty's making sandwiches on a regular basis to try to, get lunch to the kids. So it's a bigger picture than just who's positive, who's tested positive. So that's all.
Thanks, Pam. Any final questions?
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, Selena calls to question. And again, Peter, I think this motion, could you read it back real quick? It's simply, I think, calling tomorrow a snow day.
Oh, where's my button? Okay, way back here a few pages ago, Mr. MacArthur moved that the board call a snow day tomorrow, Friday. No students or staff in the school to assess the situation and make sure to come out safe and sound. Second by Mr. Kirk.
Okay, all those in favor, and we'll.
So Doug, let me just revise that, because I don't want the motion to say that there'll be no staff in the school. We've just heard from Gail and Sarah that they're willing to be here. So Jeremy, would you be okay with just subtracting that, that no students in the school from the motion?
Yes, of course.
We should probably amend that really
I was gonna
quickly.
say we should amend that.
Yeah, let's amend it, Dan. I'm sorry.
So I'd like to amend the motion to remove the sentence about, remove the
phrase.
The part about no, that simply says no students in the school building, instead of no students or staff in the school building.
Okay, all those in favor of
Not quite clear. Revise it not to say no students.
It does say no students. It does not say no staff.
Yes, we want to remove the
That's how you
staff
want it to
portion,
end up.
Peter,
Okay.
of the motion. And I'd like a second on that amendment. Seconded by Jeremy. Okay, all those in favor on Dan's amendment to the language, not the actual vote, say aye.
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 Thank you. That passed. Now, the regular motion, the amended motion, which allows for no students in the school tomorrow. All those in favor say aye.
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 I think that's 3. Okay, the ayes have it. Gail Chain, you are on the call. Is it possible that you could send a communication out? I know Wayne would normally send a robocall, but it would be really appreciative if you could do that. If you want to write it up and put it in front of me, I'm happy to help. We can also mention the PCR testing in it too. Is that possible, Gail?
I can send out an email, although the email that I sent out about tonight's meeting didn't seem to go to everybody. I think we should do a robocall. Is Wayne unavailable to do that?
Bill, you want to do it? Are you raising your hand?
I will communicate with Wayne, and either he or I will take care of that.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, Bill. And just remember the PCR testing. That's important. We need to get kids in the parking lot and checked.
Doug,
And
can I make a request, please?
Selena, then Dan.
I just wanted to ask a question of both Sarah and Gail as to who you need help from tomorrow, and if there is any need for volunteers, additional volunteers, to make that happen. It's a huge, giant thing that you're making available to our community tomorrow, and just want to make sure you have your bases covered.
Yeah, I appreciate that offer. It actually is very doable. It will be totally fine for her and I to do it. And I've already got an entire very detailed communication queued up with all the emails ready to go to all the families. I just was waiting for the final decision before I sent it. So they'll be getting that communication very shortly. I'll wait till we announce that school's closed.
Well, I'll encourage the public on here to reach out to the community as well and share the news, but it will be coming from robocall. But I don't think Bill's going to do it until after this meeting, which is probably going to go much longer now. So moving on. Thank you all for your time. Hopefully people will hang on.
I'm so sorry, but is it possible before we move on, is there any way that we cannot do anything? Is there any way that Bill could step out to do that now, or he could confer with Wayne about that now so that we can give people as much time as possible, or is that not possible?
Bill's going to leave for 15 minutes and I'm going to take care of it. I'll be back in 15.
Thank you, Bill.
Look, you'll be fine without me for 15. I promise.
Yeah, but the only thing we have to go is the budget discussion and your superintendent's report, because Wayne is out. So we're just going to be hanging around for 15 minutes without you. I think we could probably
do our executives. Can we do our executive session business?
Nah, I would much rather keep the people on that want to talk about the budget, because there's people here that want to do that as well, Jeremy. So I'd like to kind of power through.
You know, when we have a normal snow day, we don't know, and we don't get a phone call till 6 o'clock. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
I think it's okay too.
School is not childcare. School is school. So please, it's okay. Not the end of the world. It'll come sooner than the 6 o'clock snow day call.
While I appreciate that, I also want to look out for folks whose work schedules are dependent upon their children being at school, which they could have reasonably thought, planned for. And I think that the great privilege that I and my spouse have of doing the majority of our money earning in a flexible way from home as much as we need to is not necessarily a privilege of other working class people in our area. So I think that it would be worth it to get the message out as early as possible so that people could try to find childcare.
And Doug, I think we have Lori is with us. It seems like we can start with Lori, and then when Bill gets back, we can proceed with whatever questions we have for him. Is that?
I think Bill's probably already finished it based on the conversation while we've been talking here. So I think I'd just like to move on. And yes, we can start with Lori. Bill, if you can do anything while we're asking questions with Lori, that would be great. So I don't have documents to share, but I know Lori is on the call, right, Lori?
I am.
Okay. So you sent an email. Did you send it to the entire board? I was a little busy today. I'm sorry, preoccupied.
Yeah, it sounds it. Yes, I did. If you wanted to give me screen sharing, I could do that for you.
Oh yeah, why don't you pull it up?
Okay, I'm happy to do that. I think you just need to give me the power.
Okay. Are you under Lori in the I don't see you.
Yeah, she is.
I'm right next to you on the screen.
Keep moving around.
On my
There you go.
screen.
I can't make you co-host, and I can't give you screen sharing. Okay, I'm just going to allow multiple. There you go. You should be okay.
Okay, there we go. All right, hang on one second. And okay. Everybody can, let me put this a little bit bigger. All right, so can everybody see this? The Marlboro fiscal year 23 proposed budget.
Yes, I think that for the folks on the call, we could probably start out with a reminder of where we left off at the last meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it up and make sure everybody could see it.
And I wish I had Wayne's nice sheet in front of us, but essentially, because there was a $90 million, we don't call it a windfall, what do we call it? Surplus in the general fund?
Mm-hmm. In the education.
They are granted to use 45 million of it because Brad James wished it under the Secretary of Ed to apply it to the tax rates for many towns. So we sort of get a little break, and we are hoping to use that break to fund areas that are in need of it. So at the end of our meeting last time, we directed Lori and Wayne, I think specifically for transportation, because we have an annual review of our buses every year, and we never know if we're going to get a hit with a bus increase or not. We told them to look at high school tuition because this year high school tuition has gone up $129,000 unexpectedly. That of course could change come enrollment time in August, but right now it's expected to be 129. So we're putting more padding there. And then the other one was to, as a gift, is basically getting us out of what's going to be the capital improvements for the remote learning room. So the one that's being put in next to the Outback. We hope to pay that off a little bit ahead of time so that we don't have that in next year's planning when we have to budget, and we won't see that there in that line item. So I think that's all that was come to, but you and Wayne were going to go off and come back and see what those changes brought.
Right. So I was able to get revenue all set so that, we have a tax rate, which we did talk about a little bit last time. And you are right, Doug, we did use this education fund windfall, which comes out in the form of a higher yield. So typically the yields that I've seen during my time as a business manager have been around 11,000, give or take a few $100s. And the conservative number, which Doug referred to as using $45 million of the surplus, is almost 13,000. So that's the conservative number. So, we can talk a little bit about tax rate after we go through the budget. I did, in purple on this budget, make a note anywhere that we did make changes. So Wayne and I did put in a few other things. I think that Dan had mentioned increasing the architect line. So we did increase that line as well to $50,000 for the upcoming building project. We increased building maintenance by 20,000. Wayne had wanted to put in some bathroom upgrades and things like that. So that was another area. And all of this is flexible, of course. This is basically, we said, okay, if we want a $2 tax rate, how much money is there to allocate in different areas that need attention? Some supply money was put in. And also Wayne had me increase the science teacher that is a to be hired position, increase the salary. I had it mid-range and, he wanted a little bit higher salary range on that one, just to be safe. We put in 5 what we call phantom students into the tuition line item to bring that up to protect there as well, whether that gets spent or not. If it doesn't get spent, then it will go to your fund balance. So those were the basic items that we looked at. And then I did put in a line, which I'm going to drive everybody crazy and scroll right to the bottom. So I can, well, actually I won't. We'll go through here, and anywhere in purple, you'll see this is the increase in the salary for the science teacher. The science teacher is broken out into elementary and into secondary. So you'll see there, you'll see the updated 5 students that I added to the secondary here. There was an increase. That was the other thing that Wayne had asked for, was to increase the Spanish program by 0.13. So it was a 0.20. So we increased that there. Some increases in supplies, as I mentioned. This one was for music, and then I believe there was one for in health services as well. The rest of these notes you've seen already, so there was no changes to those line items from the first time we met. We did put also a 0.5 custodian in. That was something that Wayne and I had talked about potentially using ESSER funds. There's one more pot of ESSER money. We did talk about that, but since the yield came in so high, and really look at forward thinking with a bigger building or a reconstructed building, and certainly the modular classroom, there is a need for increase in custodial work. We increased the engineer line and increased the bus transportation line to 40,000. So we increased it by another 20,000. Kayla, I just want to stop here and talk about transportation a little bit. Kayla and I were going to try to meet today, but you know, as was mentioned before, life at Marlboro has been pretty crazy, so we didn't get a chance to. I will tell you that the bus that you currently are leasing, the buyout is about $52,000. So to own that bus outright, that would be the cost to do that. And then there is a need for a replacement bus for next year. And we're working on getting some numbers for that. And that's what we just couldn't pull together for tonight's meeting. So she and I will get together and come and, have a number for you at the next meeting. But 52 will buy out the bus you currently have. So that's a good number to keep in mind. And then finally, there was a little bit of an increase in non-technology repairs and maintenance for the kitchen. And then the sort of the placeholder is the transfer line. So this is basically would be transferred out to capital. It could be transferred to, the bus reserve. It could be transferred to your capital reserve. It's just really a placeholder to, as we talked about, to get to that $2 tax rate. So does anybody have any questions on this specific line item budget?
Okay, so just for the public that's on, we're going to let the board ask questions of Lori, and then we'll open it up to folks when we're sort of done there. Go ahead, Dan.
So Lori, the very bottom line there where you have the placeholder to capital, is that just a sum of all the other increases that you've added in, or is that a separate increase of 115,000?
It is a separate increase so I believe the number was around 285,000 that could be added to the budget that you saw the other night, that would, bring the tax rate to that $2 tax rate. So this is the balance of that 285.
Got it. Yep. Thanks.
Sure.
I don't see any hands raised, but if you don't know how to use the raise your hand feature, please go ahead. Dan, another question.
Yeah, so Lori, I have been thinking, and for people who were at the meeting last week, you'll be familiar with this discussion. And for those who weren't, I guess we bring it up again. The $2 is just it's a speck on the horizon. I expressed my discomfort with that last time we had this discussion, and I still am uncomfortable with it. I like the way you've done this, Lori, because what it does is it specifically adds line items where we know we want them, and I wouldn't call them puff. I would call them, those are real things, and we know that we're going to need that money. But I guess I would be an advocate as one board member for reducing that very bottom number of 115,000 and putting a smaller placeholder in there so that we could come back to the voters with a tax rate that is not $2. Now, to be fair, we were late in our last discussion. We sort of gelled around the $2, but that one makes me uncomfortable, and I just want to say that.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody want to respond to that, Selena?
So I actually was more in favor of going to, mostly because we're looking like long-term, right? So like knowing that there's probably not going to be a $90 million surplus in the ed fund in the future, and knowing that trying to, rather than having like a decrease in a tax rate for 1 year and then a spike, and then maybe, like trying to level it out a little bit, and also knowing that we have a building that is in great need of either being like completely redone, or, I mean, we've had many conversations about, the need for the capital improvements, not only on site, but we've explored other venues and options, and we need to start planning to pay for that now and take advantage of the surplus in the ed fund. So I just feel like, aiming for the $2 is conservative. I also want to remind folks of, what was it, 27,000 thereabouts is a penny.
Penny, yeah.
So, I mean, to decrease $115,000 by even a little bit is literally pennies. So we would decrease what you're proposing, Dan, to like $1.98. And I don't know if that's, if we're talking about like making sure that we have money in either in a reserve fund or ready cash on hand to be able to say, okay, our architects, we have this plan that you've drafted for us and we're ready to rock and roll, or we've been gifted a piece of land by somebody else in town who is allowing us to build a whole new school and a new site. Here we go. We've got cash on hand. Let's break ground. We got to stop talking about it, because we've been talking about it for 3 years. And I think we're now ready to invest and put our money where we've been, for lack of a better term, put our money where our mouth is. So I think this is great, Lori. I appreciate the work you put into this.
Dan, I'm inclined to agree with Selena about the capital improvements coming, only because I think it's better to ask the town for the support that we need for buses and for high school tuition now, while the tax rate's being pushed down, artificially by the state, essentially, to where it could have been $2.16, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. And that would have been without any control, and everybody that we need in the school, and with health rates rising, or health care rising, staff's always going to go up, faculty's always going to go up, and salaries. Those are like the bulk of our, control, or things we don't have control over. But I feel like I'd rather be going to the town with saying, I'd like to add a bond, and we're not going to come to you for buses this year. We're not going to come to you for, it would just be the bond for the building. And that's my hope, is that we use this opportunity. And I sort of agree at the end of that session that we had last week, sort of with that sentiment. So I'm sorry to disagree, but I love you. Okay, Jeremy. Any thoughts?
No, I don't have anything to add. Thanks.
Any final questions for Lori? Lori, you got something to say?
Well, I just wondered if you wanted to take a look at there was a couple of other documents that I did send over. I did an analysis basically from 2015 and projected out that, just looking at the tax rate and it's sort of, I think it tells a story that I think you will need as you move forward to presenting this to the public. So it's up to you guys. I know that you're already running behind schedule, so I'm happy to share it and talk through it, or we can do it next time even.
If you could please share that, Lori.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I think it's fantastic. I appreciate what you do.
I have a
It's great.
separate question, Lori. You know that I've been working closely with the Coalition for the Equity, and based on the new recommendations, can you do models yet for what would happen to us, or no? Is that not feasible with what they've provided?
I could probably, if I
don't want you to go crazy. But.
No, I probably could do some modeling if I had a little bit more faith in the process of how it was going to come out. Is it going to be over 5 years? Is it going to be over 3? I mean, those things make a huge difference. I certainly believe it's going to be over 5, but I'm not sure that has been set in stone. Nothing's been set in stone. But I can do with what came out in the draft, I could do some modeling.
Okay. Well, I don't want you to do that yet until it gets a little firmer, but that might be probably during the session and we might not know till next year. So go ahead and share your screen for Selena.
Okay, so let me go a little bit. All right, so this is, so I did this analysis to show basically 3 data points. What's missing here is the yield. So I'll be upfront about that. And it goes back to 2015. And what I was curious to know is, your equalized pupils, how have your equalized pupils, which is, obviously the cost driver for the tax rate, how has that been over time? And, it's really, other than you had a few dips here, the green line is equalized pupils. You really have stayed actually pretty steady, which was interesting to me. And then your tax rate was staying pretty steady here. And then as Selena pointed out last time, you were headed to the $2 tax rate with the $1.92 here. And that was in fiscal year 21, right? So for fiscal year 22, the year we're in, this again is, it really is an anomaly. So it's your CLA took this jump here to 105. It was really staying, as you all know and have pointed out, 98, 99, 100. And so really this is not a true accurate picture of what happened last year. And then I started projecting out by just adding 3% to a 3% increase to the bottom line of the budget, which, you could include some of that as bond money, but it doesn't really add a whole bond payment to the budget. It probably would be more than 3%. And then I just projected, the equalized pupils, I see them going up because then I also did ADM. So what was interesting to me is that the equalized pupils were actually staying pretty steady here, but your ADM has changed where you have more kids in the building, right? And you know that. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. But it was interesting. So the makeup of your pre-K through 8 students versus your 9 through 12 has changed a bit. And that's on this, I'll just flip over here real quick. That's this other document here, that shows your high school kids are, down, and you're in the building students, which is why you need more staff and you need, your building rehabbed, right? So I just basically took that data and just said, okay, where could this tax rate go? Adding 3% to the bottom line of the budget year over year, and having an $11,000 yield, right? So that's more in line with what it typically is. And I kept the CLA at 100%, right? So we were talking about a $2 tax rate here, and you can see each year of what could happen with your equalized pupils staying basically the same, increasing a little bit because, Wayne has predicted the last couple of years of the students increasing at Marlboro, and it has happened, right? So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of where you're headed, right? So I think you're done with the days of the $1.65 tax rate is what this looks like to me. This does not look like you're going to go backwards, taking into account that this fiscal year 22 was not accurate. Now, this does not have a penalty in it as well. So this could even be higher if there's a penalty.
Lori, thank you so much for this chart. It's really helpful. And I just want to also remind people that that lower dip that we saw last year was really because of the influx of COVID money. I mean, we had no food costs at all last year. There were other costs I can't name. I forget what they are, but the feds gave us tons of money and a lot of school districts as well. So that's just a false narrative there on that number, in my opinion. And I really thank you for this, Lori. This is great to look at, and I think we can use it. I mean, we can use something like this, maybe a smaller version for the town report, the director's report. If you guys want to include it, I can look into including that in there for the auditors.
I would definitely like to have something like that in the report. I think it's a great visual.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and all this was taken, right off of the equalized pupil data that comes out from the state. So, and the tax rates. So, should be.
So, any questions for Lori before we let her go and enjoy her evening? No. I think that Bill, you can handle questions for Lori should the public have them, but we'll open it up to the public now. Lori, have a good night.
You sure? I can stay on if that's.
I mean, if you want to just hang in the background and instead of listening to music, you could listen to us. But
no, I enjoy hearing the questions from the public. So
okay, great. So we'll open up to the public and we'll give everybody. It's not that many people, so we'll give everybody equal share to speak. And if you don't know how to raise your hand, you're going to have to turn your video on because I don't see anybody. Okay. Any final questions for Bill or the budget? No. We are going to have another meeting. Lori, I think we're going to let you go. Have a good night. Thank you so much. Another meeting will be in January, Lori, and we'll hopefully check your schedule, okay?
Thanks again, Lori. Much appreciated.
I hesitate to do that now because we're missing Jude, but I do think that we should probably, since this is our last meeting of the year, look to January. Can we just pull up our calendars real quick and figure out when we'd like to meet next for the budget? And I'll take proposals.
Does it make sense, since Jude isn't here, to just throw out a doodle poll?
Okay.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Thanks, Selena, for doing that.
Oh, you're volunteering? No, it's fine. I can do it.
Who had the idea?
I think if I look at his screen anymore today, my eyeballs are going to fall out. So
yeah, no, it's fine. I'll put something out because I can also balance it between Dan and I's other commitments. So that's fine.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. Next issue is Bill, Superintendent's report. And we have one big topic under that I slotted in there, Bill, which is the sharing of students across the SU.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the most important thing that I want to talk about tonight. I mean, I'll just let you know, in general, I've provided the written report for the month, but I do have a meeting on Monday. I know it'll be of particular importance to you all, with the entire Vermont Superintendents Association, so all the superintendents, and just Brad James, Emily Kornheiser, and Tammy Colby. So we've got a 3-hour meeting on Monday. I'll be in and out as I'm picking up my son from the airport, but they will record it and I will get to view it. But I'm very excited because we are, those are the 3 key players in how the weighting studies are all going to play out. And to have that audience for that amount of time is going to be nice. And I have a lot of allies on that group. Just so you all know, regionally, Windham and Windsor County is kind of the region that I work with most often. And everybody who operates schools. So if you are not operating, it's different. But if you operate schools, everybody will benefit from what either path, if either of those paths are chosen. And there's philosophical reasons to support or not support either path. But what has been proposed by the task force regionally is highly beneficial to Southern Vermont. So I'm going to be attending that meeting. Just wanted to let you know that. And then I really wanted to get your guys' input and opinion on supervisory union choice within the district, within the supervisory union, because we're going to have on January 26th a supervisory union meeting in which I'm going to get direction from the supervisory union board to either contract with our attorney to actually develop this memorandum of understanding or not. And so I really want Marlboro to be clear about where they stand on that. And so you don't have to finish the conversation tonight. You can do that again in January, but you're going to be talking about budget. So I really want your brains to be thinking about how does Marlboro believe and feel about having supervisory union choice.
I think that we're also missing Wayne, and I really have questions for him on this and how he feels. So we can touch on it a little bit tonight, but it's really, I think, food for thought for the board, and ask your follow-up questions now over email to Bill, maybe all before the next meeting. And I'll try and bring a proposed motion to the table that is in line with, I think, what other districts are thinking. So, but Dan, go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, so Bill, one thing that I thought was encouraging about what you talked about as the draft the last time we met was the limits on the numbers of students that would leave the school and could come into a school. I think that's really important because we have tiny, tiny schools here. And,
Absolutely.
It's that, and nobody wants to be hammering somebody else's school, nor do they want their own school to get hammered by that. So I would urge you to keep those numbers there and keep them very, at least to begin with, small enough that they don't make a major impact on the small schools.
Yeah, no, I think everybody agreed to that in September when we talked about it theoretically. And the way that I've structured it is that each school district would have to agree to a minimum of 5% out and 10% in. So for Marlboro, imagine that you receive 10 kids and you allow 5 kids out as a minimum, with the caveat that Marlboro gets to decide which classrooms are even available to have those 10 kids come in. So for example, if the 3rd and 4th grade class has 18 kids, and this would happen in April, Marlboro School District gets to say, we don't want to allow anybody to come into that 3-4 class because we don't know what's going to happen between April and September. And you'll have that right. So you have 2 rights. What is the anything above 5% and 10%? And which classrooms are even available at all. But that will be the minimum, because really small schools like Windham that have 16 kids, they want to be able to have 50% out and 50% in. So what the agreement says is that you have to agree to a minimum of 5% and 10%.
Great, thanks.
Selena.
Does that work for for junior high, for seventh and eighth grade, because for seventh and eighth grade, we're the only, aside from Leland and Gray. I'm just thinking about what that means for allowing numbers in, because that's tuition dollars for us versus choice, or is it choice because of Twin Valley?
No,
I mean,
beautiful.
sorry, Leland and Gray.
It would only be choice for students in West River District that are assigned to Leland and Gray. But if a fourth grader did school choice, intra-SU choice from Wardsboro to Marlboro, they would be counted on the ADM in Wardsboro. They would attend Marlboro for free, 4th, 5th, 6th, and then in 7th, if they decided to attend Marlboro, you would then receive tuition for 7th and 8th.
Okay.
So you guys are in a really unique situation, because if you participate in this and you have students 6th grade and below that are from Stratton, or not Stratton, Dover or Wardsboro, they would become tuition students in 7th grade.
So is that 5% out, 10% in, include the 7th and 8th grade? Or
No, because
would we
those are
have to do
tuition
a separate?
students.
Okay,
They are separate, yes.
but that would include them for River Valleys, or that's just separate altogether?
Any tuition student would not be counted in intra-district, intra-SU choice.
Okay.
I just also want to remind everybody, the reason this came up last time or last week was because I think I asked Wayne, I said, Wayne, are we building a budget that can accommodate 120 students? Because that's what I would like to have if we're going to see numbers go up. And so we kind of have built, I think this year, a budget that could accommodate what's being asked of, SU tuition, I think. So I think that I'm hopeful that Wayne would say, yes, bring it on. But also the luck of the draw would be tuition at 7th and 8th, hoping those children would want to stay, which would bring revenue to our school.
And it does provide an opportunity if you have a member of the Marlboro school community who works at Grace Cottage, for say. And it might make sense for them to have their child go to Wardsboro or Jamaica or Townsend or Newfane on the way. That would provide another opportunity, with the ADM still be counted in Marlboro. So no money exchanges hands. The ADM stays with the home district.
And we've resolved the special education issue because we were already sharing all of that. So
exactly.
This is exciting, actually. We talked a lot about this during all of the Act 46 conversations we had way back when, that we talked a lot about making this possible. So this is really exciting.
yeah, I do wonder, Bill, we're not going to go like lottery. Are a lot of kids going to want to move around, do you think? Or do you think that a lot of...
Well, there will be a lottery if more than the percentage agreed upon by the district applies, right? So if you guys do 5% out and that's 5 kids and you have 8 kids, then we have to do a lottery. It has to be blind and it has to be non-discriminatory.
Yeah. I don't know. Those always creep me out, but I get it.
And that's all I got.
Any other comments, questions? There is an executive session, but I think there was one thing that I needed to add to the agenda, which I forgot. I don't think it was that, Bill, it was something else, but we're scrapping board continuity from the agenda, and Wayne is not here to give us updates. The January meeting, we talked about potentially you're going to do a doodle poll, and I can't remember what it was, but with that, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session. Peter, did you have a question? You're muted, Peter.
Peter had a question, and then I would like to do the pay order before we go to executive session.
Okay.
There's a bunch of minutes that were never approved. There's like 6 of them. I sent them to everybody. And if you want to get that out of the way, this might be an opportunity.
Would you guys mind hanging on while we look those dates up?
Not a bit. No, let's do it. Absolutely.
Peter.
I can tell you what they are right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll go. one at a time for the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the dates Peter is about to read in one fell swoop. So who would like to make that motion?
Okay.
I so move.
Dan is motioning to approve the minutes in one fell swoop with the dates you're about to read.
Emergency meeting 6/23/21. Regular meeting 8/19/21. Regular meeting August 18 as well. And 9/16. The last one is October 21st.
All those in, or sorry, somebody second that? Seconded by Selena. Any comments, questions, edits? All those in favor say aye, clearly so I can hear you.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And now I'll entertain a motion for the pay order that was recently done. Thank you to Jeremy and Selena for that.
Oops. Oops, sorry. I believe we did the one from November 18th already, correct? That was the one with all the tuition, I think. I'm just looking. back.
We did pay order last time. Yes, we did.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
the
I was
in-person meeting.
Okay.
And it was big. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was the tuition one. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure we had that one.
And
So
we
this
have
one
this,
is,
the one I'm looking at is 12/16 pay order number 14.
yep. It's in
Okay.
the amount of $104,000 and $397.51.
And you
Great.
found no anomalies there, Selena, as you and Jeremy looked over it, or?
Nope, there was a couple of tuition payments in this one as well, but otherwise pretty straightforward.
Well, I will make a motion that we approve that meeting in the amount that you have just read off.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan?
Aye, yes.
Good. Okay, that passed. And now I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session for legal.
So moved.
Moved by Selena. Do I
Need a
hear a
second.
second?
Second, yes.
Seconded by Dan
MacArthur motions to adjourn.
at 8:04. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, thanks, everybody.
That's Jeremy Kirk seconding it for you, Galen.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Okay, good. Have a good night.
Thanks a bunch, everybody.